Hey, in the last video we looked at the sine and cosine functions. The sine of an angle was the y-coordinate, the cosine of the angle was the x-coordinate, and this is as long as we are in the unit circle. And in this video we're going to examine what is the tangent function. What does the tangent give us? So the tangent, you see, is defined to be y divided by x. So what does that mean? Well, if we are on the unit circle and we are dealing with some point on the unit circle, so let's say that this right here is just some arbitrary point, some xy point that we're dealing with, and we're saying the tangent of the angle, this again was our angle, is equal to the y-coordinate divided by the x-coordinate. Well, because the unit circle is centered at the origin, I can say that this y is actually y minus 0, and this x is x minus 0, right? Y minus 0 is y, x minus 0 is x. But now what does that kind of look like? A y-coordinate minus another y-coordinate, right? That's the second y-coordinate. X minus another x-coordinate. This is like y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And what's that the formula for? That's the formula for slope. So what does that mean the tangent is? The tangent is actually the slope of this line segment that connects the origin of the unit circle to any point on the unit circle. So in quadrant 1, because that line segment is a positive sloping line segment, I'm going to get a positive value for tangent, like quadrant 1 meaning from 0 degrees up to 90 degrees. So if I pick, that's called acute angles if you remember. If I pick an acute angle measure, like the tangent of 70 degrees for instance, I'm going to get a positive number because it's a positive sloping line. Alright, and if I pick something beyond 90, for instance like that 135 that we just looked at, I end up with a negative number because in quadrant 2 that is a negative sloping line. It's going downhill as I move left to right. So when I hit enter here, I get -1. Now, why am I getting -1 for this instead of some crazy decimal? Because remember, 135 degrees, that's 45-degree angle in the second quadrant. We're on the line y equals -x. And what's the slope of the line y equals -x? It's the number in front of the x, so -1. Okay, so this quadrant 3, I am now positive sloping again, meaning I'm going uphill left to right. So if I pick something bigger than, this is 180 degrees, so I pick something bigger than that, like the tangent of, like for instance 190, I'm back to a positive slope again. Okay, and then finally I go into the fourth quadrant, something bigger. This is 270 degrees, so 90, 90, 90. That's 270, so something bigger than 270, but not quite 360. So something like the tangent of 310, just to have a number in that range. You see we're back to negative. So the tangent is the slope of the line segment that connects the center of the unit circle to a point on the unit circle. Okay, so just a little recap. Those are the three main ones. X is the cosine of the angle. Let me get back to where that looks like the angle again. X is the cosine of that angle. Y is the sine of that angle. And the tangent of the angle is the slope of that line segment that connects the origin to the point on the circle. Okay. Alright, now think about what happens with slopes. There's a horizontal line. Horizontal line has a slope of 0, if you remember, right? And then we've got positive slope as we're starting to increase the angle until finally we get to 90 degrees. And now we've got a vertical line. And if you remember from algebra, pre-calculus, the slope of a vertical line is undefined. All right, or you can think of it as infinite. We're getting a higher and higher and higher slope. The slope's getting steeper and steeper and steeper until eventually it's infinite. Right? Infinity is not a defined number, it's just kind of an idea. So we go from a 0 slope to an infinite slope in just 0 to 90 degrees. Right? And then when we come back the other way, it's the same thing. We got another horizontal line over here at 180 degrees, or remember that's pi radians. And if we come backwards, we start increasing the negative slope, like meaning it's becoming more and more and more negative until finally it's a negative infinity. Right? It's going downhill left to right, but it's so steep it's negative infinity slope again when we get to that point. So we're going from 0 back to negative infinity back this way, and 0 to positive infinity this way. So on each side of that 90 degrees, we go from positive infinity, or approaching positive infinity, to coming up from negative infinity. Alright, that's going to be very important for the next section, that you understand we're going from positive infinity on one side to negative infinity on the other, when you understand the graph of the tangent function. Alright, and then remember x and y coordinates, cosine, sine, slope is tangent.